Hello, everybody. Welcome into the first ever CardinalSports.com premium recruiting chat. I'm Dave Lackford. I'm your recruiting analyst, and I'm here to answer the questions that you guys posted on my thread. So let's start this off and get it moving, because I'm sure we all have a ton of things to do during this lockdown. Anyway, first question is from H. Collett. He asks, okay, Dave, who would you say is Louisville's top quarterback target, and which quarterback target does Louisville feel most confident in getting? To add to that, maybe give a rundown of a couple of the targets. My favorite target I've seen is Eric McLaughlin, but I'm not sure how likely it is that we can land him. Well, let me make sure I open the right page. That's not the right page. Here we go. So I'm working on this Louisville football recruiting 2021 big board, and we're going to start with offense. I kind of narrowed down all those hot boards into who has been kind of identified as the main targets at each position on the offensive side of the ball. So here are the quarterbacks. We got Peter Costelli. He's from Mission Viejo, I don't know how to say that, California. We got Aaron McLaughlin from Georgia. We got Jaden Perry from California. And we also have Nick Vadiato from Florida. Now, I've been told that Vadiato and Perry are two guys who are similar to what Louisville likes to do with the quarterbacks they have in Conley and Malik Cunningham. They're kind of short. I've been told that Peary is he's listed as 6'1". I've heard from people who have seen him, he's probably a hair under 6 foot. He has offers from like Boise State and some smaller schools out there. San Diego State is another school out there that's recruiting him. So what I was told by someone who's familiar with the situation was that he's kind of leaning towards going to one of these small schools, and he reports offers from a few other Power 5 schools. Let's look up his profile real quick and check it out. So you see here, you got Arizona State, Boston College, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Vandy. So these are teams that are looking at him. I put my prediction in for him to go to Louisville right now. So I think, to answer your question, I think that Peary is the one they feel most confident in. However, is he going to travel from the West Coast out here to play his college ball without taking a visit? You remember last year, Chubba Purdy, he did like an East Coast swing around this time and got to visit all the schools, and he made his decision around May. So I think it was May. I can't really remember. Maybe it was June. But either way, he got to see all these schools over here on the East Coast, and I don't know that Peary is going to get a chance to do that. Also, I don't know if the staff has really had a chance to put eyes on him in person. That's something I have to find out later. But maybe they don't want to take a 5'11" kid. Maybe they're looking for someone else. Maybe they haven't really identified who their guy is. You said, who do they prefer, or who do they have the best chance at getting? I think the one that they would prefer out of everybody would be Peter Costelli, okay? But to me, he seems like kind of a long shot to come all the way across the country to play here. Aaron McLaughlin is the guy you said you like the best. I've spoken to multiple people out in Georgia, and it's a mixed bag of reviews. Some people say he has a lot of upside. He's a really good athlete, runs like a 4.7, 140. But there's been questions as to, is quarterback really his position? Is he more suited for playing tight end with his athleticism? So I don't really know that, Louisville themselves are totally sold on McLaughlin, because quarterback is a position where you really have to get these kids into camp, and you really have to see how the ball comes off their hands, so to speak. So it's tough. It's tough right now with the quarterback recruiting. I would be surprised to see them get one of these guys right now, sight unseen, without visits. But crazier things have happened, and we're living in strange times. But out of these four, to answer your question, I would say Peary is probably the guy that they're in the best spot for right now. Vadiato, he's a new name to me. I haven't really got a chance to reach out and talk to him, so I'll get on that. But I've had other projects in the works, so I'm sorry that I wasn't able to really give you a straight-up definite. But these are pretty much the four guys that Louisville has really narrowed down on right now. So keep an eye out for these 4 going forward. And now we got wrong page. The next question comes from Thailand06. He says, it seems like last year's success was the result, getting kids on campus early with all this stuff going on. Do you think more kids will end up signing in February rather than December so they could take more visits? Man, who knows? You know, these are strange times. Like I said before, I don't want to sit here and speculate on when a kid's going to commit. I think if we get rolling here, if we get out of this thing by June, I think you'll see kids being able to, flood these campuses. I think one thing that will happen is you're going to see a lot more college coaches on high school sidelines this year than in previous years because they got to make up for lost time. So I don't necessarily know how that's going to affect if kids are going to sign in the early period or the late period. The power dynamic in college football recruiting is definitely the power dynamic definitely goes to the college football coaches and these billion-dollar institutions, right? So you're just a kid coming out of high school, and when the coaches are putting the pressure on you to commit because they got somebody else waiting to take your spot, you kind of take that spot. So the question would be not whether the onus is on the kids when they're going to commit, but more of the question, do these college coaches want these kids to commit in December, or do they want to kind of extend the evaluation period out until February so they can maybe get the kid on campus for the first time, measure him, see how flexible the kid is. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't necessarily think that the onus is going to be on the kids as to when they commit. I think you could possibly see more kids. The answer is yes. I think that this will affect kids signing later in the process than we've seen since the early signing period has been incorporated, but we might get out of this around June. So I think if we get out of this around June, I think coaches will be able to see the kids and then they'll be able to go back to saying, look, we want everyone signed in December. We've done our homework. We've done our evaluations. So long-winded way of saying we'll see. All right, so back to the screen share. And I apologize. This is my first run through on this. So if it's clunky, I'll figure it out as we go if you guys decide that you even like this and want to continue with it. He also asked, Thailand 06 says, what 2 inside linebacker prospects that U of L has offered do you like the most, and do you think we land them? I like Jaden Hood out of St. Thomas Aquinas. He's got a ton of offers. He's one of those kids that normally I would say is a long shot, but he has a lot of contact with Louisville, and so I think they're in the mix. I wouldn't say that they lead or anything like that, but, if he dropped the top whatever, I think they would make the cut. He has some family members who kind of really like what Louisville has going on. He was supposed to visit in March, but, of course, all the visits got canceled, so he wasn't able to make that visit. So I like him, but I don't know that we get him. Trinity star linebacker Jack Dingle is a guy that the staff loves, absolutely loves him, thinks he can play in the league. He doesn't have a lot of offers right now. I don't know why. I think he's capable of being a 4-star type kid. If we had the Rivals Camp series like we normally do, I would have been able to evaluate him in a setting against other top kids as far as his athleticism. I already know he can play football. I've seen him with the pads on for Trinity. He's definitely a guy that can come in and play early, if not as a freshman, as a redshirt freshman or a sophomore. So I really like him, and I think they have a good shot. The problem is his brother goes to Cincinnati, and his father went to Cincinnati and actually made it to the league from Cincinnati. So there's family ties there, and sometimes that's hard to overcome. But word around the streets, and I'm pretty plugged into the local scene here, is that he kind of wants to blaze his own path, and I think he wants to go to Louisville. But, who knows when he's going to commit because of this. Before everything started, he told me that he was trying to shut things down around the summertime, actually. So I think he's kind of got his mind made up between Cincinnati and Louisville, and I think Louisville lands him, and so that would be a big win for them at inside linebacker. So let me pull up my little list here from one of my contacts that I can't show you to talk about the other linebackers. One thing that has been mysterious to me is Trinelius Tatum, who is Cam Wilson, Cam Jones. What's the kid's name we got? What's the kid's name that we got last year at linebacker? I'm having a brain fart because the camera's on me. But they played together down in Mount Zion, okay, down in Georgia. And I thought that I watched him on film. I thought he was a really good inside linebacker. But Louisville's kind of not really pushing the gas down on him. He released a top 8, and Cam Wilson, from Jonesboro, Georgia, Mount Zion. Louisville's really not putting the gas down on him, and I thought he was a really good player, but they got some other guys they like more. Hood being the main guy, I think, is the one that they're trying to get. I think Hood is the dude that they really want, that they're really targeting, but I don't know if once he comes off the board, if he doesn't go to Louisville, I think what you're looking at, I think you'll see them kind of push for Tatum a little bit harder. They also like a couple kids from down in Florida, but I don't know that they're really in a good spot with them the way that they are with Dingle. And I think right now they're kind of you know what, Hood and Dingle are our guys. We want to really land them. But if we can't, then we're going to go ahead and reassess and go back to the drawing board. So that's where they're at with those. Dingle and Hood are the two main guys right now, and we'll see where it goes from there. Gavin Barthiel is another guy that the staff is high on, but I'm not sure that where he is with them. I know that he's in good communication with them. I'm trying to pull his profile up right now so that we can check him out. He's from Lakeland, Florida. Lakeland won the state championship 2 years ago. And let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So here he is. This is Gavin Barthiel. He's a 3-star out of Lakeland. He's 6'1", 205. So with him, he's got offers from Georgia Tech, Iowa State. You can see his offer list right here. Pretty good looking offer list, good looking kid. Let's take a look at his huddle. I'll just let this run a little bit while I talk about him. If you could get into Lakeland, that would be a big win for Louisville. I mean, Lakeland is always filled with talent year after year. And, I would assume this is Ponce's territory down South Florida. And this is a kid that they're really high on as well. So I like him. I think that they could land him. Competition would probably be Georgia Tech right there. I think Iowa State's been doing a good job getting these kind of guys. Pitt, I don't know, probably a little bit too far up north. Nebraska does a good job of getting kids out of Florida because, Scott Frost has his ties down there from his days at UCF. So I think if Nebraska really wants him, that might be a dude that you would want to look out for. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this, go back here, and then I am going to find – I guess I messed that up. Sorry for it being clunky, guys. Bear with me on this. So let's go to the next question. Dave Lackford, how do you feel about our chances with the two Cincy products, running back Corey Kenner and O-lineman Mal Glenn? Do you know if they have a pretty strong relationship with one another? I don't know that. Would love to have those two in our class next year, especially Kenner. If we were to land both, I wonder if we could pull off some other prospects around the Cincy area, maybe some out of LaSalle. Any big-time receivers that we're going after, 5'7", 5'8" guys that we have a legitimate shot at. That is from Cookie B. Well, Cookie B, to answer your question, Corey Kenner has visited Louisville 4 times. That's twice as many as any other school. So I do think Louisville has a good shot with him, given the success that the running game had over the years. I think that, yeah, Louisville's definitely in the mix there. He's their top guy. And if they could get him, it would be a big pool out of Ohio. Like you said, you got to recruit Ohio. You know, Louisville hasn't done that well recruiting Ohio. I mean, they get their guys every now and then, but you look at some schools like Kentucky, they go to Ohio and they pull the top dudes out of there, sometimes away from Ohio State, sometimes away from Michigan and Penn State. You know, they're up there in Big Ten country. You don't have this like SEC fertile recruiting ground here in Louisville, so you got to go up in the Big Ten world and snatch some of those people, right? I think that they have a good shot with Mal Glenn as well. Mal's been here. He visited. He has nothing but good things to say. I think both of those players are. I will put them in the good category as far as the chances to get them. I think Mal probably a little bit more than Kenner, but I think they're both pretty high up there. So me saying Glenn over Kenner isn't like saying, well, I don't think we get Kenner either. I think Louisville can get both of them. It's just a matter of, you know, what progresses here with the government. Are we going to get out of our house? Are we going to be able to go out and do things? Ohio State is full at running back, so I don't think Kenner's going to Ohio State. Michigan is probably a threat, but I like Louisville's chances here, so I don't know that they necessarily lead, but they definitely got the lead in visits. They have a good relationship with him, so if he's not the lead, if Louisville's not the leader, then they're close. They're very much in the game. For Mal Glenn, I would probably say that Louisville leads. I'll go that far out to say that. I'm not sure who else is really on him like that. I'm going to check my notes here real quick. I know Cincinnati offered Iowa State's on him. He's visited Pitt twice, so I'd say Pitt is really in the mix for him as well. Josh Hemholt wrote an article saying Pitt, Louisville, and Cincinnati, and I think, yeah, those are probably the guys that – those are the teams that are in it for him the most, and I like Louisville to win out over those two schools. But never discount Cincinnati. Cincinnati was a nationally ranked team last year, and they recruit well. Luke Fickell does a good job competing in Ohio for the top kids. That's the hometown school. So I don't feel like Louisville should be losing to Cincinnati for a kid they're going head-to-head with, just because, you know, it's Power 5 and better resources, a better schedule, so you get better film against better competition. But Cincinnati's no chump when you're in a head-to-head recruiting matchup with them. So watch out. But I will still say Louisville leads for him. Now, let's move on to the next question here. Let me share my screen so y'all can see it. The next question comes from Card Blood. He says, how much has the vibe about U of L football this time last year till now changed with recruits? The vibe is that it's obvious, right? They won 2 games around this time last year. They were coming off an abysmal season, one of the historically worst Power 5 seasons that I can remember anyone ever having. And then they just totally turned that around and won 8 games. So that's what the kids are saying. That's what the vibe is. They're saying that, you know, they've been talking to these coaches for a while now. They get to know them. You hear all the cliche stuff, you know what I mean? Great family atmosphere. Coaches care about you after football, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that, to me, was the most tangible is, hey, these coaches know what they're doing. They took a 2-10 team to go 8-4. And they beat Mississippi State. They beat the SEC school, lower level, but still they beat an SEC school in a bowl game. And last year they were getting run off the field by everybody they played. So it's good vibe, very much improved. Card for Life 32. How would you handicap the Jordan Lovett recruitment at this point? I don't know how to handicap because I don't play golf, but I would say that they lead for Jordan Lovett. I think that Louisville's the leader there. They got 3 safeties coming back when he'll come on campus. They got Jack Fago, Josh Minkins, and Lovey Jenkins. Fago will be on his way out that year, and that leaves Minkins and Lovey Jenkins. So they need Lovett. They love Lovett. I think Lovett likes it here. And I would say Louisville leads for Lovett. Any in-state recruits or local kids not on the radar too much that you can see the Cards making a move on. Yeah, Charlie Ely, the inside linebacker from Trinity. I think if they miss on a couple guys and they're able to have camp and see what he can do, I think that, they may take a flyer on him. The problem is he ain't going to be able to camp because they're probably all going to get canceled, and that's really going to hurt a kid like Charlie, who I think is a really good player. Another kid under the radar is Evan Brown. He's an offensive guard from St. X. I feel like Louisville's closer to offering Evan Brown than they are to offering Charlie Ely. I'm not saying that either of them are going to get an offer, but those are underrated guys you want to keep your eye on. Another kid is Eli Blakey. He plays safety for DuPont Manual. He just picked up Wake Forest the other day. His recruitment reminds me of Josh Minkins in that he has like a ton of MAC offers, a ton of these group of 5 offers, but he never really cracked a Power 5 offer. But he just got Wake Forest. So he's actually further along in his recruitment than Josh Minkins was at that time. So I like Blakey. Don't know with all of the safety targets and the spot that they're in with the safety targets that Blakey gets an offer anytime soon. But I could definitely see him getting an offer down the road. Say they miss on Jansen Dunn or Ben Perry or somebody like that. But I think I like Ben Perry a lot. I think that they're in a good spot for Ben Perry. Ben Perry would be the cards like that rover outside linebacker that they use in this system. Perry 6'3", 190. He can run. He can play different positions on the field. So I really like Ben Perry. He's a good player. And that's a guy that you really need to be watching out for. So I think they're really good for Lovett. I think they're really good for Perry. And I think it's an Ohio State Louisville battle for Jansen Dunn at the moment. But I wouldn't count out Tennessee and Oklahoma, perhaps. He also has, I think, Georgia Tech and Miami in his top whatever. I think it's a Louisville, Ohio State battle right now with Tennessee kind of lurking around there somewhere. So that's what that is. And then talk a little bit about what you see for talent in the city in the future. Obviously, the 2021 class. The 21 class, yeah. Dingle's like the top dude out here. The D1 prospects in the 21 class are not the D1, the Power 5 guys. They're out in the counties. So that's what it is there. The 22 class, you got some good talent. You got Keontae Goodwin, of course. You got Selah Brown. You got a few guys, but that's far off in the future to me. Right now, I'm focused on the 21 class. I know I'm forgetting somebody, and somebody's dad's going to see this and think I'm disrespecting them. How can you forget my kid? Well, there's a lot of kids I got to keep up with, man. So no disrespect, but right, the kids that jump off the page to me right now are Selah, Keontae. Those are the top 2 in the city as far as I'm concerned. Now let's go 2023, man. I don't know, man. They're still babies, man. They're still wet in the bed at this point. I don't know. Any specific grad guys to look out for, or do those often come out of nowhere? I'd assume we're looking for impact linemen and secondary guys. Yeah, those dudes are going to come out of nowhere. They got the one kid, the lineman from UConn. So he came out of nowhere on me. I got a heads up. Luckily, they were like, hey, reach out to this kid, blah, blah, blah. And then he announced like a day later. So that was cool. But I don't know. So M. Watson, 61. There's a lot of talk on national shows about the possibility of the season being pushed back to January if the virus persists. Brett McMurphy has some pretty strong opinions on this possibility. This could force seniors and top draft backs, blah, 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 blah. If this happens, how do you think it affects recruiting? Well, I mean, Brett McMurphy is not a scientist. He's not a doctor. And quite frankly, he's like a Facebook journalist at this point. I pretty much, I could care less about Brent McMurphy's opinions, whether they be strong or weak. No one knows what's going to happen. And we're all just going to sit here and play it out and do the best we can in these times. Right. So I don't want to get into that. That's the thing. I could care less about that. Now, if it does happen, however, you're right. Seniors and top draft prospects like Trevor Lawrence to sit out and not play. Good. I feel like the dudes that are the dudes are already there. A good friend of mine went up to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and there's like a composite of where they have these 2021 people ranked, right? And so they've got the film, they've seen them as sophomores. Sure, they would like to see more during their junior year, but they're not going to get a chance to do that if there's no season. So you're going to see the focus shift to the combine, to these pro days, to individual workouts, things like of that nature. And that's what's going to really be the thing that moves the needle. And they're just going to have to go on the 2019 film, and that's the way it is. And I say the less free football you play, the better, because you're a millionaire and colleges make billions of dollars off of these kids, and they get whatever they get. So I don't think you should play for free. I believe in the market. I think the market should dictate value, and I think these kids have a ton of value, and they're not getting much in return for it. So if you could play 1 year of football like Mitch Trubisky really did and go out and get drafted and make all that money, good for you, right? So look at Rondale Moore, for instance, freshman All-American as a freshman, not just a freshman All-American, but he was a straight up All-American, right? And I got word back that he's like the number 3 receiver on that composite. Tutu Atwell is number 8 on that, right? So if we don't have a season, that's what it is. Then they're going to run and they'll test and they'll get drafted. And I think that's the way it's going to play out. So good for those kids that don't have to go out and risk life and limb and injury. The Lattimore that played for South Carolina back in the day that blew his knee out and didn't make any money in the pros. Like, I don't want to risk that injury if I'm one of those kids that I've worked my whole life strenuously to get to that level. And then all of a sudden, one play you get hurt and that's it. So good. Less free football, the better. How it's going to affect recruiting. If there's no season, well, I think what you're going to see, if there's no season, we're going to see who the real evaluators are, right? They're going to have to take kids that they don't see them play their senior year. But a lot of times in recruiting, it's all about where the kid is at going into their senior year, right? Junior year of football, sophomore and junior year of football, coaches kind of know what you are and they've seen enough. So going into your senior year, that's the time to show up for camps. Are you really as tall as you say? Are you big as you say? Are you stiff? Do you have flexion? Are you really that fast? These are the things that coaches do at that point because they've already identified you as a junior going into your senior year. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to every rule, and there are about 50 to 100 kids in the country who come out of nowhere during their senior year, and they kind of blow up, and they get to go on to bigger schools, and those kids, it sucks for them. They're not going to really get that opportunity to shine because they're not going to get any senior film if there's no season. But we don't know that there's not going to be a season, and this is all speculation. So let's not speculate any further, and let's just assume that there is going to be a football season because that makes the world a much better place. Now, there's a lot of talk. Well, no, we got that. Vic card. I know there's a ton of time before signing days, but Dave, you're acting much less curmudgeonly. I don't know. I mean, I might be a curmudgeon, but I don't know. Curmudgeonly is okay. About our recruiting prowess. Are we doing well at this early stage compared to Louisville's best classes of the past, or are you a newly minted sunshine pumper? Vic, they have 2 commitments. One is from a kid who said that he's still going to take all his 5 visits. So I'm still curmudgeonly about the recruiting process of Louisville. Look, there's the SEC schools, there's Ohio State, there's Clemson, there's Oregon now who does a good job, and then you got a bunch of people surging, a couple of schools surging, not a bunch, but you got Arizona State's been surging, North Carolina's been surging, Georgia Tech has surged, and you're seeing Rutgers for some reason surge, but they've got a bunch of 3 stars or reaches. They're high up in their rankings just because of the pure number of recruits that they have. So what do I mean by that? I'll show you what I mean. If you look at the 2021 team rankings, you'll see some weird names. You'll see Maryland, okay? Maryland's number 11. Rutgers is number 12, but Rutgers has 8 3 stars, right, and 10 commits. So they got 2 kids that are either 2 stars or below, and then their average recruit ranking is 2.8. They got 720 points. That comes from the fact that they have 10 total commits. So you'll see them fall as teams like Oregon start landing their guys, LSU, Georgia, so on and so forth, right? Louisville currently, who cares where Louisville is right now? They got 2 commits right now. So the recruiting power is always Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, LSU. Those are the teams that recruit well every single year. Oregon has been doing really well recently, year in, year out. You'll see Auburn, A&M jump up there. Oklahoma will jump, as always. And those are the teams you're competing with, right? So if you're finishing outside the top 30 every year, you got to do a lot more with less, and it all comes down. You focus on player development. You focus on scheme. You focus on those things so you can, so you don't sink and you swim. So recruiting is not the end all be all. It's just the starting point, right? If you got, there's a lot of schools like Tennessee recruited well during the Butch Jones era, but they never put it all together on the field for whatever reason. You could say it was player development. You could say it was bad scheming. Whatever it was, they got highly rated recruiting classes, but they didn't do anything with it. Florida State is another good example. Towards the end of Jimbo's tenure, they were getting a bunch of overrated 5 stars who really never developed, who for one reason or another may have just never panned out the way they were supposed to pan out. So it's good to get the good kids in there. You want to get the top talent because that's really what pushes you over the edge, right? Because it masks any other flaws you have. But player development is crucial. Coaching is crucial. So you got to have all 3. Recruiting is just one of the big 3 factors. If you don't have all 3, you're not going to win a national championship, right? So, no, I'm still acting curmudgeonly about Louisville's recruiting prowess until they change my mind by landing, more than 1 4-star like they did last year. They're going to have to pull in a couple this year, right? And then I'll be like, hey, good job. Now, they are in the mix for some good players this year. But recruiting is a zero-sum game. So I don't care about the lip service that kids give to a school. It's a zero-sum game, and I only care about results. It's a result-driven industry. And if you're not getting results, then you ain't really doing much. Okay, now let's go back to the screen share so we can see what old Beantown Card is talking about here. Beantown says, I like that as well. He said I should go to video. Not just do the podcast. Well, here we go. I'm on the video right now. So that's what's up, Beantown. This is your Cardinal version of Packers.com. Cardinal Cash, my buddy, he says, how likely is it that we whiff on all our top quarterback choices and have to sign an Evan Conley type under the radar guy? Well, that's a loaded question right there because you're assuming that Evan Conley isn't going to be good guy. Evan Conley was a dude who was committed to Satterfield when he was at App State. That was Satterfield's guy. And when he came to Louisville, he brought him on. You see that all the time. I mean, that happens when it happened with Jeff Brom out of Purdue. He brought a bunch of guys over there that were committed to Western Kentucky. They went over to Purdue. A lot of those dudes are gone now. They transferred out because they just really couldn't, cut the mustard, but there are some other guys that really were good and have stuck. So we'll see with Evan Conley. But to answer your question, it's likely that you're going to whiff on all your prospects. You got a ton of it's an arms race, man. So if you're recruiting 4 quarterbacks, right, you're not going to get all 4. So what's a whiff? I guess a whiff would mean their top guy, like the one that they're really going after and they're spending the most resources and the most time on. I don't know, like you got T. Webb coming in next year. You got Cunningham who will probably come back, and you got Evan Conley. So it's going to be hard. Kids want to play right away. They want to be the guy from day one. And I don't know that they're really after like a top tier quarterback the way that other schools are. Sometimes you're recruiting an Evan Conley kind of guy because you don't really need that guy to come in. But I don't think that they land the kid from California, Costello or whatever his name is. What did I say his name was? Yeah, Peter Costello. I think that's a long shot. Love to have the kid, but I think it's a long shot. Aaron McLaughlin from what I hear, I'm not really sold on him. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know that Louisville is either. Maybe whatever. I can see them getting him. I don't know that a lot of schools are actually recruiting him that well. He decommitted from Auburn, but from what I heard, they stopped talking to him, so he kind of decommitted because he was forced to decommit. I don't know. I think Peary is their guy right now. Is he an Evan Conley type? I don't know. I've never seen the kid. He's in California, but that's who they're after, and that's who they like. So that's what it is. Real to it. Do you think we land a top flight running back in this class, given what Hawkins showed that the offense can do? Yes, I do think that. I think your guys right now is Kenner, or Kiner. Forgive me if I'm screwing his name up. I only read these names. Here are the backs. Jalen Anderson, Kiner, and Kamaro Edmonds. He committed to North Carolina. So I think these are your two top targets right here. There's other guys out there that like Louisville, that Louisville's recruiting, but they're kind of a little lower on the board at this point. But I don't know. I think they do. I mean, if you look at what they do in the running game, and Hawk's probably going to get drafted, so there'll be a spot to share time with Hassan Hall. It's a power running game. They run the ball, 60% of the time, and they try to open up the play action, deep ball, off of the run. Ledford did a really good job with that last year. Schematically, he's got the offensive line really humming in the running game. So I definitely think that they'll get a top-tier running back. If it's not one of these guys. And look, both of them are from Ohio. So there we go. That's what I like to see. Get into Ohio and get those guys. That's what's up. So that's what that is. I don't know. Oh yeah, there was also a question about receivers a minute back. Who asked the question about the receivers? They were like, do you see any 5.7, 5.8 guys? It was Cookie B. He says, also, any big-time receivers that we're going after, 5.7, 5.8 guys that we have a legitimate shot at. Yeah. Here are your guys right here. These are the main dudes they're going for, right? So this is Amari, Huggins, Bruce. I've done some digging. Kid was supposed to call me, ghosted me. So that's what it is. But he'll be the number one player in South Carolina once the new rankings come out, because Braylon Oliver, another safety target that Louisville is very high on and is also in the mix. My bad, I forgot about Braylon Oliver. Braylon Oliver is also a guy that I would put down as a good shot for Louisville. I'd say he's in there. Louisville's definitely in that in his top four, top three. But he's been blowing up, getting a lot of offers. But a lot of times that's kind of like, hey, we like you, but they're not committable offers. So I like Braylon Oliver to Louisville right now. I'm hearing a lot of good things. I got my skeptical hat on a little bit with how much good the magnitude of good that I'm hearing. But hey, I've been wrong before. It's rare, but I don't know. Braylon Oliver, though, good spot for Louisville. Anyway, he moved to North Carolina, so he's not in South Carolina anymore. Huggins Bruce is. So Huggins Bruce, 6 foot, 165-pound playmaker. He is from Dillon, South Carolina, and he's a pretty good player. I like him a lot, and I was told he's the number one guy on the board. Yes, ahead of Dekel Crowdis. And we'll just take a look at some of his film real quick. See what you guys think about that. Another guy that they like is from Myrtle Beach. He's down with Huggins. His name's J.J. Jones. He's a big 6'4" type of guy, big power receiver, something that they're going to have to bring in to kind of take the spot that's going to be vacated, by Seth Dawkins or Des Fitzpatrick. You see here why the Louisville staff likes this kid so much. He's got some wiggle. He's explosive. So, he's a player that Louisville is highly targeting, and that's the number one receiver on the board right now. Another kid that blew up is Jaden Alexis. He's out of Florida. He's got a lot of high-level offers right now. Alabama came calling for him, but he's a super fast kid. He's a bigger kid. He's probably like 6'1". He can do it all. He's a Jordan Watkins type dude to take the top off. A little bit taller than Jordan. A little bit heavier than Jordan, but so those are the two guys right there at the top: Jaden Alexis and Amari Huggins Bruce. these are the two that Louisville covets. Now, I'm told that they talk to both of these guys a lot. They're trying to get up visits set up. Do I think that Louisville leads for those two receivers? I think that my sources told me that Amari Huggins, it's down to Louisville, Virginia Tech, and South Carolina right now. That's how it sits. But I get the impression he's kind of pining for an SEC offer. So his recruitment is far from over. But Louisville sits in a good spot for him, and he is their top guy on their board at the moment. So keep an eye out for him. Now, let's see what the next question is here. What are the chances of landing DeKel Crowders? I don't know, man. I think DeKel's a great fit here. I mean, he's kind of like what Tutu is as far as just a dude who's super fast, to get down the field and burn people. Obviously, Tutu's a special talent, so I don't want to just throw that out there to anybody. DeKel went down to IMG last year, didn't really see the field that much, whereas, Tutu dominated down there at his school, Northwestern, and took him to a state title. So, but I think that he's schematically the dude that you want to fill in for Tutu if you don't land Huggins Bruce. That being said, I think he's kind of trying to go where Jagger Burton's going. I don't think Ohio State's really on him like that, but I don't know that that's where he wants to go. I know he loves Oregon. He told me back at an Under Armour camp in Cincinnati that he wants to get out of the state, but then he got a taste of that. He went down to IMG and played there for a year, and now he's back home at the same school that he left. So I don't know. I think he could end up at Kentucky. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how high he is on Louisville's board right now. I mean, I'm sure they'll take him, but I don't know that they're really pursuing him like that. The vibe I get is he's probably going to go to Kentucky, but he's probably still wide open and doesn't know. So Jordan Watkins ended up going to Kentucky, right, and then ended up flipping to Louisville. So it's so early in the cycle, it's hard to say. But right now, I don't think that Louisville leads for him. I think they got a chance, but I think Oregon or Kentucky is kind of like the move for him. Oklahoma likes him as well. They'll take him. So Oklahoma will be a good fit for him as well. And they're wide open Big 12. That'd be a nice spot for him to land. But realistically speaking, I think he'd probably land at Kentucky. But he's not out of the mix for sure. There's a chance there. I just don't know that that's necessarily what's going to happen. All right, so this next question is, so is this going to be a weekly video answering these recruiting questions? What day of the week so we can expect this video? Well, this is from Card Rock. Card Rock, I would say, yeah, let's do this every week. And as long as there's anything to talk about. And what day of the week can we expect this video? I don't know. It depends on if I go back to work. I'm a lawyer and the courts are closed, so I'm just sitting around now doing teleconferences and stuff like that. So if this continues this way, I can do it. I can do it every week around on a Wednesday. Let's put it that way. So that's pretty much it for the chat. If you got any other questions, I'll put them in the chat below this thread, and I'll use that for the next recruiting session. If you guys didn't really hit on much, I didn't get a lot of questions, so I could just sit here and spout off all day, but I'd rather not. So let's just go ahead and say, put your questions in the thread below this, and if once the queue gets full, I'll just do another one of these videos, and hopefully next time I'll know how to flip the screens around and make this a little smoother of a transition from my ugly face to the videos and stuff like that. So ask more questions in the thread and I will answer them. Hope you enjoyed this. This is Dave Lackford for CardinalSports.com. Thanks for watching.